Ever imagine, like, actually scrubbing in prepping for surgery? The pressure, the precision, it's always kind of blown my mind.
Oh, absolutely. It's a field where even the tiniest movement can have huge consequences, and I think that's why the training has always been so intense.
Right. It's like the Olympics of medical training.
Yeah.
And for a long time, it meant endless hours shadowing senior surgeons, learning almost entirely in person. But here's the thing. Surgery itself is transforming. Less invasive procedures, like laparoscopy, are becoming the gold standard.
Exactly. We're talking smaller incisions, faster recovery times for patients. Laparoscopy uses these tiny cameras and instruments, and honestly, it's revolutionized so much of what surgeons can do.
Yeah, sign me up for less scarring, for sure. But I imagine it's a whole different ballgame to actually perform these procedures.
Absolutely. It demands a whole new skill set, which is where today's deep dive comes in. We're looking at how surgical training is adapting to keep pace with these advancements, particularly through remote and asynchronous learning. Think like simulations, remote feedback, even AI is stepping in.
Okay, now that's what I call a 21st century glow-up for surgical training. But are these methods actually effective or just, like, more convenient?
That's the million-dollar question, and the research we're diving into suggests it's not just about convenience, it's about effectiveness, too. For example, one study focused on first-year surgical residents learning a complex laparoscopic procedure called a jejunogenostomy.
Hold on, a what-ostomy? Can we get a quick translation for the non-medical folks out there?
A jejunogenostomy is essentially connecting two parts of the small intestine. And traditionally, mastering this kind of procedure takes a lot, and I mean a lot, of hands-on experience.
So how do they even begin to teach that remotely?
They combine several approaches. Residents practiced on incredibly detailed simulation models, received feedback from experienced surgeons remotely, and eventually progressed to performing the procedure on a live porcine model.
Okay, so they're not just playing operation on their laptops. They're using realistic simulations and getting expert guidance, even from afar. But how do you measure their skill level objectively? That seems like the really tricky part.
That's where the innovation really comes in. This study used a system called OSATs, which stands for Objective Structured Assessment of Technical Skills, as well as motion tracking devices to compare residents' progress to experienced surgeons.
So no more subjective opinions like that stitch looks a bit wonky.
Right.
It's all about hard data.
Exactly. And the data told a fascinating story. Residents trained with this blended approach performed on par with seasoned surgeons, and here's the kicker, they actually outperformed their counterparts who went through traditional training.
Whoa, hold on a second. That's seriously impressive. You're telling me these residents using simulations and remote feedback were outperforming surgeons trained the old-fashioned way?
That's what the research suggests, and it really challenges some long-held assumptions about surgical training. It seems like the secret sauce is that blend of practice, repetition, personalized feedback, and the ability to learn at your own pace.
Yeah, it's like that famous saying, but instead of see one, do one, teach one, it's more like simulate one, practice a bunch, get feedback, refine, repeat.
Exactly. And this study highlights another key aspect of effective remote learning: objective assessment. By using tools like OSATs and motion tracking, we can remove subjectivity and get a much clearer picture of a surgeon's skill development.
Which is crucial, right? We're talking about people's lives here. You don't want to base a surgeon's competence on whether or not their mentor was having a good day.
Precisely. And this objective data allows us to fine-tune training methods even further. For instance, another study explored the use of remote asynchronous feedback for teaching basic laparoscopic skills.
Okay, back up a sec. Asynchronous feedback, does that just mean getting notes later instead of in real time?
Essentially, yes. Instead of having an instructor hovering over your shoulder, you might record your practice session and get detailed feedback later on your own time.
Interesting. So it's less about being physically present in the same room and more about the quality and timing of the feedback itself.
Exactly. And what the study found was that asynchronous feedback was just as effective as on-site evaluation for these basic laparoscopic skills.
Wow. Okay, so now we're not just talking about changing how surgeons learn, but also potentially where they can learn. This could be huge for doctors in remote areas or places with limited access to, like, specialized training centers.
That's one of the most exciting implications of this research. It has the potential to democratize surgical education, making high-quality training accessible to anyone, anywhere in the world.
It's like taking expert knowledge and putting it in everyone's back pocket. But there's got to be more to it than just recording yourself and getting notes later, right?
What about the human element of mentorship? the back and forth discussions that happen in a traditional training environment.
That's where another fascinating aspect of this research comes in, the power of peer learning.
Okay, peer learning, color me intrigued. Tell me more.
One study looked at the effectiveness of peer feedback in surgical training. And what they discovered was that medical students, when properly trained, could be just as effective as resident instructors in providing valuable feedback.
Wait, really? So you're saying med students could help train future surgeons? That's right. And it makes sense if you think about it. Medical students are often closer to the learning process themselves, so they can offer a fresh perspective and relate to the challenges their peers might be facing.
Plus, it frees up more experienced surgeons to focus on the really complex cases.
Exactly. It's about creating a more collaborative and multi-layered approach to training. And this study also highlights how technology can facilitate this kind of peer learning.
How so?
Imagine a platform where residents from all over the world can upload their practice videos, receive feedback from a network of peers, and even participate in virtual simulations together.
Kind of like a global surgical training network. That's amazing. So we've got simulations, remote feedback, peer learning. Is there anything else shaking up the world of surgical education? Because at this point, I feel like I should expect the unexpected.
Well, you're not wrong. In fact, one of the most buzzworthy developments in surgical training involves a technology you might have heard of, artificial intelligence.
Hold on. AI is entering the operating room now. This is getting futuristic.
It might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but AI is already playing a role in surgical training. One study used ChatGPT, a powerful language processing AI, to provide feedback on surgical techniques and compare its effectiveness to feedback from experienced surgeons.
Okay, now I have to know, how does an AI even give feedback on surgery?
They fed ChatGPT a massive data set of surgical videos and performance evaluations so it could learn to identify and analyze surgical techniques. And the results were pretty astounding.
Don't leave me hanging. Spill the tea.
Both residents and experienced surgeons often couldn't tell the difference between the feedback provided by ChatGPT and the feedback from human experts.
Whoa. Seriously. An AI is giving surgery pointers that are just as good as seasoned surgeons. What's next? Robot surgeons operating on us.
Well, we're not quite there yet. But this study does raise some fascinating questions about the future role of AI in personalized feedback. Imagine a world where every surgical resident has access to a virtual mentor available 24/7 to provide customized guidance and support.
That sounds both incredible and a little intimidating. It's like having a supercomputer judging your every move. But I guess if it leads to better outcomes for patients, who am I to argue?
That's the key question, isn't it? How do we harness the power of these technologies to improve patient care? And that brings us to the broader implications of everything we've been discussing.
Okay, you've got my attention. What's the bigger picture here?
Well, we've been focusing on surgical training, but these innovations have implications far beyond the operating room. They represent a fundamental shift in how we think about education and training across all fields.
So it's not just about surgeons, it's about pilots, teachers, chefs, everyone.
Exactly. The principles of remote learning, asynchronous feedback, and personalized instruction can be applied to virtually any field where skill development is essential.
That's a pretty mind-blowing thought. It's like we're on the verge of a learning revolution.
Precisely. And while there are certainly challenges to address, like ensuring equitable access to technology and maintaining the human element of mentorship, the potential benefits of this shift are simply too great to ignore.
It's about using technology to empower learners, not replace human connection.
Well said. And as we continue to explore the frontiers of education and technology, one question remains. What role do you want to play in shaping this exciting future of learning?
Wow, when you put it that way, it really does feel like a huge change. Like we're at this turning point for how everyone learns.
And it's not just a fad. This is a fundamental shift. How we think about education and training in general is changing.
And what is at the heart of this revolution? Is it just that we have better gadgets now? More impressive simulations and stuff?
Those things definitely matter, but the core of it is personalization. Recognizing that we all learn in different ways, and then using technology to customize those experiences, to match how people learn best.
So instead of forcing everyone into the same box, some of us busting out the seams, others with all this extra space, we're making a learning environment that adapts to each person.
That's it. Imagine learning at your own pace. You can dive deeper into the things that really get you going, and you get feedback tailored to you every step of the way.
So you're not falling behind because the class is moving too fast,
Mm.
or getting bored because you already know the stuff.
Exactly.
It's like a custom-made education, just for you.
That's the idea.
But really, this personalized learning, it could be life-changing for people who haven't been served well by the traditional education system.
Absolutely. Think about students in rural areas. They might not have those specialized teachers or courses. Or what about students with learning disabilities? They might need a different way of learning altogether.
This tech could actually level the playing field.
That's the hope. Giving every learner the tools and support they need to reach their potential, no matter their background or where they are.
And this isn't just about school. This is about lifelong learning too, right?
We live in a world where the only thing that's constant is change. New technologies pop up every day, industries are always transforming, and the skills that are in demand now might be useless tomorrow.
So how do we keep up?
Lifelong learning, having this mindset that you're always growing, open to new skills and knowledge, and these new technologies make that so much easier than before.
So it's not just about a degree or a job anymore. It's about being curious, following your passions, learning for the joy of it.
I love how you put that. And when people feel empowered to learn throughout their lives, it's not just good for them, it's good for all of us.
This has been an eye-opening deep dive. I'm leaving with so many new thoughts about the future of learning.
Me too. It's an exciting time to be learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to all our listeners out there, what will you learn today?
Until next time.